I never imagined a quiet afternoon could erupt into madness, with neighborhood enforcers handcuffing my sister, only to crumble in panic when federal agents stormed the scene. It all began innocently enough. My sister, Emily Harper, stopped by my house for a casual visit. Within minutes, she was in cuffs, dragged off by our community's self-appointed HOA officers. Their eyes gleamed with a toxic blend of arrogance and malice, as if they fed off the fear they instilled. What they didn't realize was that Emily carried a secret one that would flip their world upside down and wipe the smirks off their faces when the Secret Service arrived. This is how it all unfolded. I'd always pictured a neighborhood as a sanctuary. Friendly waves during evening strolls, borrowing a cup of flour, kids laughing as they played. That fantasy shattered when I moved to Willow Creek Lane. Fresh off a messy divorce, I craved peace and quiet. This place seemed perfect: manicured lawns, neat hedges, a picture book suburb straight out of Story. Emily, my older sister by 3 years, lived just a couple of streets over and had convinced me to settle here, praising its close-knit charm. On the surface, it looked safe. Beneath that veneer, it was a snare. The Homeowners Association ran the place like a dictatorship. Rules governed everything. The shade of your fence, the volume of your dog's bark, even the exact hour your trash cans hit the curb. I'd wanted serenity in my little bungalow, but from the first week, they were on Mimi grass was a half-inch too long, my ivy too unruly. It wasn't just nitpicking. It was relentless harassment, a calculated chaos. I kept my head down and followed their demands, but you can't outrun oppression forever. Emily was my anchor. Bold yet grounded, she'd been toughened by years abroad with the Peace Corps, facing life's storms alongside me. When I griped about the HOA's bullying, she'd listen intently, then say, "Play along for now, Sarah. But if they're crossing lines, we'll figure it out. If they're abusing power, we'll shut them down." I didn't know how soon that chance would come. Willow Creek Lane had a bizarre twist. HOA officers, a ragtag crew of wannabe cops enforcing trivial regulations. They strutted around in cheap uniforms, oozing bravado, probably untrained but acting like they owned the place. One Saturday, Emily dropped by, steaming about our neighbor, Margaret Tate. Margaret's teenage son had rummaged through the community dumpster to retrieve a lost phone, and those enforcers swarmed her yard, threatening fines and arrests. "It's absurd." Emily fumed over a cup of tea. "Arresting a kid for that? It's not about rules, it's about fear. They're controlling us. What's our move?" I leaned forward, pulse quickening. "We find out who's pulling the strings and expose them," she said, her eyes sharp with determination. Then chaos crashed in. We stepped onto my porch, still mid-conversation, when 2 enforcers approached. One was stocky and broad, the other tall and wiry, both sneering at Emily. "You there?" the stocky one barked. "Homeowner?" "No, her sister," Emily shot back coolly. "Then you're trespassing," he snapped. "On my sister's property?" she scoffed. "That's ridiculous." My heart thudded. They'd hassled me before, but this was a new low. Only homeowners or registered residents can gather without HOA approval, the wiry one said, voice dripping with smugness. "No lease, no deed, no permission." Emily laughed a sharp, defiant sound. "I'm a guest. You can't kick me out." The stocky one's face tightened. "We've got authority. Resist, and it's an HOA arrest." I stepped in, voice shaking. "Under what law?" His glare turned to me. "She's inciting rule-breaking. Flyers. Harassing us." It was nonsense. Seno flyers. No harassment. Emily crossed her arms. "Show me the rule book." Without a word, he pulled out handcuffs, the metal glinting in the sunlight. "Come quietly, or we detain you. HOA board approved." My stomach lurched. "You can't do this," I shouted, lunging between them. The wiry one shoved me back. I stumbled, grabbing the railing to steady myself. Before I could react, they'd cuffed Emily. Her steady gaze locked onto them as they hauled her away. I stood frozen on the steps, my protest swallowed by the air. That moment flipped my world. Live and let live? Gone. Now I craved justice, maybe even revenge. How could they do this? How could I get her back? I sprinted to the HOA's community center, a drab building near the tennis courts. Inside, Emily sat cuffed in a tiny office they'd turned into a makeshift Chelno official signs, just enforcers glaring. "Let me see her," I demanded. The wiry one blocked me. "She stays until she cooperates." "With what?" I spat. "Meddling in HOA business." "She complies, maybe just a fine." It was insane. I called the police, but they brushed it off as a civil matter, no urgency. I felt helpless. Then I noticed him, a man in a suit, older, with salt and pepper hair, radiating quiet authority. He stood in the corner, watching. Our eyes met briefly. He seemed to recognize Emily before turning away, typing on his phone. The enforcers shoved me out. Go home, or you're next. I left, fury boiling, mind racing with plans. That night, I paced my living room, calling friends, scouring the neighborhood's Facebook group. Most were too scared to speak up. A few offered quiet support. I thought about storming back, but held I needed evidence, not just anger. At 2 a.m., I collapsed on the couch, phone still in hand, exhausted but wired. Morning came with a pounding on my door. Not enforcers this time, 3 men in dark suits, flashing badges. Secret Service, one said sharply. May we come in? My heart jumped. Why them? Agent Carter. He introduced himself, voice taut. We're looking for Emily Harper. Last seen here. I hesitated. She's my sister. The HOA's holding her. Zhao. His brow furrowed. Show us. I led them to the center, black SUVs rolling behind us. Neighbors gaped as we approached. The HOA officers stood at the entrance, their swagger fading under the weight of federal stares. Carter stepped forward. You're holding a federal witness and violating her rights. Move. The stocky one flinched. ID. Carter flashed his badge. The man recoiled. This way. In the office, Emily, still cuffed, brightened at Carter. Thank God, she breathed. An agent uncuffed her, and the enforcers shrank back, faces pale. The suited man stood silent. Carter turned to him. Victor Lane, I've been tracking you. You went dark. The air thickened. He wasn't just a bystander, was a target. Carter nodded to Emily. We got your message. Came fast. You okay? She rubbed her wrists, red and raw. Better now. The HOA crew tried to slip away. Not so fast, Carter snapped. You stay until the police get here. Their panic was palpable, their power dissolving. Local cops swarmed in, cuffing the enforcers for unlawful detention and intimidation. The HOA president, Daniel Pierce, was nowhere to be found. Carter escorted us home, murmuring with Emily as I trailed behind, mind reeling. What the hell's going on? I demanded once we were inside. Secret Service? Emily sighed. I've been helping them off the books. Victor Lane forges documents, funds extremists. I saw him months ago at a local event, tipped them off. The suit got, posing as an HOA consultant, worming into their finances. Some HOA higher-ups were profiting off dirty money. They targeted me because I was digging. Carter chimed in. Victor and Daniel were laundering cash through fines and property seizures. Your sister's questions set off their alarms. That's why you wanted proof quietly, I said, pieces clicking. Tears glistened in Emily's eyes. I didn't want you dragged in. I lost it when they grabbed me. My thirst for revenge shifted to a hunger for justice. Her bruises stoked my fire. Days later, Victor was arrested, the story exploding in the news. The HOA crumbled under fraud investigations. The board resigned, and the enforcers faced charges. Daniel Pierce vanished, rumored sightings, no arrest. The neighborhood breathed easier, the weight of tyranny lifting, but I wouldn't rest until Daniel was caught. Emily steadied me through the media storm. We kept quiet as neighbors either cheered us or grumbled. The latter was almost funny. What reputation did we have left to lose? One night, Emily pored over files from Margaret, evidence of Daniel's money trail. Safe? I asked. I'll hand it to Carter, but I need to tie it together. I owe it to everyone. Her resolve fueled mine. Daniel had turned our haven into a hellscape. I'd make him pay. Weeks of digging bank records, property deeds, wire transfers, uncovered shell charities, funneling cash to extremists, all linked to Daniel. Then a tip. He was holed up 2 hours away under an alias. I called Carter, but he was tied up. Impatience gnawed at me. Let's confirm it, then call. I urged Emily. Risky, she warned, but my anger went out. We drove at dawn, ignoring Carter's calls, to a rundown motel. My stomach twisted as we watched from the bushes. An hour later, Daniel stepped out, cap, baggy clothes but unmistakable. Emily readied 911. We crept closer for a photo. He spotted us and bolted. Instinct took over. We chased, shouting stop, into an alley. He hit a dead end, trapped by a fence. What do you want? He snarled. Emily snapped a picture. Proof, Daniel. It's over. He lunged for her phone. I shoved him back. You ruin lives, cuff my sister, terrorized us. Now you run? I've got connections, he spat. Good. Let them try. I fired back. Tires screeched. Carter leapt from an SUV. Daniel Pierce, hands up. Defeated, he complied, glaring as they hauled him off. Carter scolded us. You could have died. We track your phone. Emily grinned. Thanks for showing up. He nodded. He's finished. Back home, Emily handed Carter our evidence. He promised justice. Willow Creek Lane, Transform Edno Enforcers, a slimmed-down HOA for essentials. Kids played freely, neighbors relaxed. I started a support group, channeling our fight to help others. Police vowed to stay vigilant. Time would tell. One afternoon, Emily and I walked past new flower beds, chatting about coffee shops and road trips. Normal life. At the bulletin board, she asked, fair rules now. Better, I said, exhaling. The scars sting, but I'm not afraid. Proud of you, she said. We took back our dignity, our freedom. Arm in arm, I felt home, not the house, but us, unbroken. Daniel's sentence sealed it. Our nightmare birthed victory, resilience, unity. No one else would suffer like we did. That was triumph enough.